I was comfortably seated in my chair on the commandment bridge of the KUSC chasm when it happened. We were on a routine patrol mission when I suddenly felt a sense of dread and unease. Judging by the reaction of the crew, I wasn't the only one. That could only mean one thing. A FTL jump? Stucci, there weren't any FTL jumps scheduled for today, no. I confirm, Captain. Sensors, localize the origin of the pulse. Comms, contact High Command, and watch for potential EM communications from the unknown craft. All fighters on position, I want our weapons ready yesterday. I don't know what that is, but it can't be good. My mind was racing. There was only about 100 FTL-capable ships in the entire Krasiok Union, and they were rarely used, so this was more than worrying. Had it been stolen for some strange purpose by a terrorist organization? A FTL ship could be a real weapon of mass destruction. A jump next to an inhabited planet would be devastating. Our chance was that the ship would have to rely solely on its AIs until the crew was resurrected. We localized it, sir. It's about 15 light minutes asterisk away. Skipper, get ready for mass suppression. Place us around 200 kilometers from them. We arrived at our position what felt like seconds later. Of course, 15 minutes had actually passed for static observers, due to relativity. It was a problem, especially for interstellar travel, but most people were competent with never leaving their cave of birth, let alone their star system. Sir, High Command confirms no FTL ships are missing. This one is unknown. Unknown? What does that mean? It's aliens! We got their structural analysis done. I'm sending it to your screen. I gasped in horror. The ship before me was like a nightmare brought back from our own past. A caricature of our first ships as seen by the opponents to expansion. It was an assortment of module agglomerated on a central beam, with the propulsion on its back and habitation and cargo on the front, with rotating rings as a mean of artificial gravity. There were also gigantic radiator panels to dissipate heat, and descent modules for planets with and without atmosphere. All in all, it wasn't too different from the ships our ancestors built to conquer the stars, with one glaring difference: the large pieces of glass in the hull. They were everywhere along the habitation modules, and on the very front of the ship, there was a structure looking like a cupola, composed of many glass panels. Is that? We shouldn't make hasty conclusions. It could be optics for their sensors as far as we know. Still, it felt wrong. I tried very hard not to imagine what being on the ships would feel like. I was breathing heavily, trying to control my fear. Windows, on a spaceship. You could see with your own eyes what was already unbearable in pictures. You could know with that many windows, you would gaze into infinity. Besides, the amount of light entering through those would be unbearable. Sir, they appear to want to communicate through radio waves. Well, open a channel. Sir, we haven't deciphered their language yet. Right, I didn't think of that. I can be dumb sometimes. Well, apparently they did, sir. It appears they are transmitting us data about their language first. Shit, did I say that out loud? All the AIs the government could spare are working on it, and they recommend we send them data of our own, in case they're better at translation than us. And so we waited and waited for another good 15 minutes, before finally. I receive a clear communication, sir. It appears they have translated our language. What do we do? Wait for the Council's orders. We can't take initiatives in this situation. My experience taught me it was almost always better to not take any decisions by yourself about something out of your expertise. First contact with an alien race was certainly in this category. The Council speaker said it will take a few hours to open an emergency session. You are asked to handle first contact by yourself during this time. What? Me, a military official, being entrusted to represent my species to an alien race? What was the speaker thinking? I then realized that everyone, not just me, had been caught by surprise with that first contact, and that our civilization as a whole was unprepared for it. The idea life could have appeared elsewhere in the universe never crossed our mind, let alone intelligent life. Besides, I would have assumed becoming spacefaring was rather rare, since we only did it because of the Great Crisis. I closed my eyes and sighed deeply. Open a channel. There was only audio, and the talking was done by a translation AI, so it was more like a glorified textual exchange. I began communication. Greetings. I am Captain Mirkol of the KUSC Chasm. I welcome you on behalf of all Kresiokind. Please recontact me when a biological crew member will be ready for conversation. That should buy me some time to think about what to do. With any luck, Resurrection will face unexpected issue, and the Council would have assembled by then. I am biological and ready for conversation. I could barely contain my surprise and began to panic. Had I already messed up? I apologize if my prior remark insulted you in any way. I didn't think... Don't worry, your remark just sparked my curiosity. I am Nurse Jonathan Hart, leader of this expedition. Nurse? That's an interesting title. Ah, it seems there was a translation error. Not important for now, just I am not a nurse. Very well. May I know why you came to this system rather than our capital to establish contact? Well, we didn't plan to establish contact. We stumbled onto you by pure chance. Wait, really? How did you not know the system was inhabited? Judging by its appearance, your technology is far more advanced than ours. I assume you fully transitioned to quantum entanglement for communication, and that can't be detected. So, to our sensors, you were completely invisible. I nodded. That did make sense. I didn't think of that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably not qualified for this, but the government wants me to handle first contact until they're ready, so I'd prefer to not begin negotiations right now. I heard the synthetic voice imitating poorly laughter. Sorry, it's just, I am in a similar situation to yours, and received explicit orders not to begin negotiations. That was a relief. So what shall we do while our respective governments ready themselves? Well, we could talk about our respective cultures, to improve our translation and learn about possible accidental insults our real diplomats should avoid. Good idea. Well, is there anything you want to know about us? There was, of course. A lot of things, actually. But one question in particular I couldn't hold any longer. This glass in your hull, is it? I mean, can you see? I was struggling to formulate the question. I had been holding well so far, but it wouldn't last. As I was distracted by other subjects, I could contain it in the back of my mind. But now, it flooded my mind and froze it solid. The absolute horror that is witnessing space with your own eyes, a terror so ancestral and so strong that it could actually kill you. It was simply so incomprehensibly vast that even if you survived, your mind would be irredeemably destroyed. I began to wonder how long had I been in this state of mind now. It felt as if time itself was stretching and bending as I was losing my grasp on reality. Well, what is your question? In an instant, I was brought back to my sense. I felt stronger, more prepared, as if experiencing this fear made me slightly more immune to it. Does your ship has windows? Yes, it is crucial for moral, so that you don't feel like you're trapped in a metal box, even if it kind of is the case. Besides, who would want to go in space and not being able to see it with their own eyes? Kresiox, we never reacted well even to the surface, so... Wait, you guys are a subterranean species? Yes, of course. You're telling me you can live on the surface? Yes. But how? The surface is barren and... Oh? That was a lesson learned. In first contact, do not assume anything, and I do mean anything, because what seems the norm to you may just well be an anomaly specific to your race. I assume the surface of your world is livable, that you evolved there and as such are used to seeing the sky and the stars. More than that, we actively seek it. Seeing our planet with our own eyes always was a dream of our species. All civilizations we formed studied the stars before inventing agriculture. Being born in an age that allows us to explore the stars feels like a great privilege, and all members of our crew dreamed of their job since they were children. Wow, I don't know what to say. Was it just me, or their voice synthesizer was getting better? At first it sounded like a monotonous robot, but now there was much more intonation. When Jonathan talked about space, you could hear the joy and excitement in his synthetic voice. Oh yes, I have another question. What was your mission since you didn't plan on finding us? Exploring and studying star systems. It was a purely scientific mission. We were not looking for resources or potential colonies. A scientific mission? Was it requested by an AI or... It was requested by the scientific community as a whole. We were eager to... You said we. Are you a scientist? Yes, like most of the crew. After all, this is also a very good occasion to pursue our own research. I, for example, study the formation and evolution of asteroid belts. Okay, so not only humans still had scientists, they trusted them with an FTL-capable ship and to perform first contact. What the fuck? These drug-addicted sociopaths shouldn't even leave their facilities under any circumstance. They were a necessary evil at some point, but we replaced them with AI as soon as we could, probably for the best. If you can't understand something without taking a chemical that forever changes you as a person and locks you out of true adulthood, you shouldn't try to understand it in the first place. And now, the humans arrived, and apparently treated these pale husk of what could have been a functioning member of society, like normal people. That was too far. I now knew why humans could look at space without losing their mind. They didn't have one to begin with. How could you let such menaces to society in control how what is essentially a weapon of mass cognitive destruction? Is everything all right? You've been silent for a while. I cannot talk to you. Please don't contact us until your government is ready. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? You're a scientist. What are you doing in command of a spaceship? Okay, there clearly was a problem with the translation. If you're having this kind of reaction, then there is no other explanation. Send us all your data about scientists, and we'll find an explanation in no time. I obliged. I hated myself so much. I almost screwed up first contact without even considering it could have been a material failure. Of course, the humans would never allow a scientist on a spaceship. I just had to wait, and I would have my answers. So I waited, and waited, and waited. After 10 minutes, the humans asked for our knowledge on neuroscience. I gave them and waited for nearly 20 minutes before they asked for new data. This time, it was history. It was only after transmitting the data did I realize that I had been tricked into handing them potentially sensitive info. Well, at least it was just the stuff publicly available on the networks. Or at least I thought it was. Did I just leak classified data to another race? Every time I felt like I couldn't do worse, I still managed to screw up. My career was over after today, and the humans didn't talk. And so I waited, and waited, and waited, and waited for nearly an hour before they spoke again. Hello again. Sorry for the long wait, but we figured something crucial about you. Or maybe us. Unlike you, we have neoteny. What? We still display childlike characteristics as humans. To use a Kresiok saying, we are locked out of true adulthood. No. You, however, can reach true adulthood. By that, I mean your brain loses its plasticity. You can only truly learn new concepts until your late teenage years. No, but that's not enough to learn all you need to know, at least for some positions. And besides, a good scientist keeps learning throughout their life. Comms, cut the channel! Sorry, sir, but the speaker's orders are clear. The channel must remain open in all circumstances. So they needed a way to prevent their brain from fossilizing. And they found one, a combination of herbs, transformed with time on a powerful drug. The voice had definitely gotten more subtle. I could hear the mix of morbid fascination and contained anger, as the alien described the most shameful part of our history. They were outcasts, a menace, but you couldn't get rid of them because you needed them to save you from your own incompetence. I will not act like my own people did not cause a similar catastrophe by their own stupidity, but still, you needed them to solve your great crisis. They pushed you to the stars you were so afraid of, launched your civilization on the path of progress, and in return, you replaced them with AAs of their own making. Yeah, and so, the danger was real. You couldn't trust these freaks. You gave up on understanding your own technology, placed everything in the hand of machines rather than those of your kind different from you, even if that meant nearly stopping your technological development. What do you mean, stopped? How long ago did you think we sent our first satellite into orbit? What does that have to do with your point? I thought for a bit. I don't know, 2,000 years ago? That sounded a bit low. It probably was more like 2,500 years. 2,000 years ago? He laughed. We were too busy killing each other with swords for agricultural land back then. It was more like 220 years ago. That's impossible. Even with our most advanced AIs, we haven't made a significant breakthrough since... I stopped talking. The human had made his point. And in a final display of hate for those you called scientists, but thought of as witches, you even gave up the FTL drives they invented for less efficient subluminic ones. Wait, what? We never gave up FTL. Oh yeah? Then why didn't you use it when intercepting us? I realize it's probably faster for you, but resurrecting a Kresiok from the no-life states can take hours. Wait, FTL kills you? It was like the mask of cold anger had suddenly melted, reveling the same curious and enthusiastic explorer as before. And he asked a question that should never be one. FTL kills you. This statement was the most common of knowledge. At least I thought. Never make assumptions in first contact. You're immune to FTL jumps? Well, you feel something the first few times, but you get used to it. Guess our brain can just adapt to the things we see, unlike yours. You see something during FTL? Well, there's some erratic activity in the brain that can impair your vision. I suppose this is what kills you. But yes, if you look through the window while in hyperspace, the thought of looking directly at hyperspace was too much for my poor mind to handle after this exhausting day. I fainted. How did I end up here? Ambassador Mirkol. What a joke. 2 months ago, I encountered an alien species by sheer luck and was asked to handle first contact because the government didn't know what to do. Now, I was being promoted for my admirable handling of a difficult situation. I knew that I had screwed up pretty bad, and a catastrophe was only avoided thanks to the curiosity of the humans overcoming their fear. This promotion was more of a punishment, since no Krasiok would be ready to competently fill this position for several years. Oh well, at least the pay was good. I looked through the window of my new office. It was in the government house of Karka, near the ceiling of the cave. The view on the city was spectacular, spreading as far as the eye can see, and then some. I knew the big blurry spot of red light I could see in the distance was the Great Park, and that was nearly 900 meters away. At such a distance, it was impossible to see details without any optic device. Well, for a Krasiok at least, I needed to stop thinking that any particularities of the Krasioks were universal rules if I wanted to do a better job than I had with first contact. But how? You can't change the way you think once you're in. I just did it again. Well, the fact that members of an other race could do it wasn't going to help me anyway. The humans were so different. And what we had learned about them during first contact was unsettling, to say the least. It was no wonder the negotiation between our respective governments ended up just setting a time for a new meeting. Since then, we had no contact with the humans. We still didn't know what they even looked like. Well, I would find out soon. The meeting would start in a few minutes, and this time, there would be a video feed. I had no idea how it would go. Had humans decided we were too dangerous to deal with us? Would they be open to cooperation? Would they surrender immediately to their new alien overlords? Would they even show up? Who knew? Certainly not me. My only certainty about this meeting is that I was not ready for it. The screen before me turned on. Greetings. I am Ambassador Collins, speaking on the behalf of the United Nations. Greetings as well. I am Ambassador Mirkol, speaking on the behalf of the Krasiok government. Collins looked like he knew what he was doing, so hopefully, just copying his mannerisms should work. I studied his appearance for a bit. It was really unimpressive. I mean, after what I learned, I was half expecting a cosmic horror beyond my comprehension. Instead, I was met with a face devoid of any strong features. The only curious detail were the eyes, fairly small and nearly devoid of black, although it made sense for a species used to much more luminous environments. So, what course of action did your government decide on? They haven't reached a consensus yet. The first question, and I already didn't know what to say. To be fair, it was quite a tricky question. What could I say? That the government was tied between those who wanted to preemptively destroy humanity and those who waited for more info to decide? That all information concerning humans was classified to avoid a general panic? On our side, we strongly desire an technological exchange, as we feel it would be beneficial to both our species. In the meantime, we have prepared a dataset about our biology, culture, and history. We will transmit it to you now. Very well, I'll make sure to send you an equivalent dataset. I hoped the government could spare an AI or two for that. When do you wish we meet again? Wait, it's already over? Oops, that didn't sound very professional. Is there anything else you want to discuss? No. Then we should probably stop for now and take time to learn more about each other before starting the real negotiations. Would 1 week be enough time for you? I think 2 weeks would be wiser. There is a lot to take in. As you wish. Then I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. As soon as the communication was cut, I let out a sigh of relief. I hadn't horribly screwed up this time, and even managed to gather a lot data about the aliens. Granted, the humans did it for me, but what mattered was that we had it. I asked E23, the AI the government had given me, to send the humans a similar dataset, and then give me a recap of what we had received. The information we have covers many topics, including biology, history, culture, and many others. Which one do you desire me to summarize? AIs have the bad habit of speaking in a very formal fashion, which I find pretty irritating for long conversations. I was wondering if I could order it to talk normally. Biology sounds like a good place to start. Very well. Humans, scientific name Homo sapiens, are mammals, members of the primates, and... I'm sorry, it's not what I meant when I said I wanted to know their biology. I don't even know what half of these words mean. Maybe scientists like the humans cared about this kind of classification, but that was not my case. Besides, you don't know how the human classification system works either. My apologies, Ambassador, I actually do, as it is explained in the annex to the files compiling all the 12 million S-species humans have identified on Earth. Wait, what? How much data did they send us? About 3 zettabytes, most of it being artworks and historical documents. There is a selection of 150 million books, 300,000 movies, twice as many video games, 10 million paintings, and a letter of apologies for the fact that only 5% of the content is translated to our language due to a lack of time. I see, and I assume you're compiling a dataset of the same size to send them. That is precisely what you asked me. And how long will it take you? About 3 months. Then I change my orders. Prepare the most comprehensive document you can in a day, then send them immediately. Yes, Ambassador. Good thing I checked. It would have been embarrassing if the humans showed up in 2 weeks and had learned nothing about us. Wait, no, I shouldn't think like that. It wouldn't have been embarrassing. The humans could have seen it as us trying to steal data from them while giving them nothing in return. It would have been a disaster. And now please tell me about human biology. And by that, I mean their characteristics, especially the ones differing from the Crasiox. The humans are taller than the Crasiox, but much less muscular. As the result, they are about twice as light. They need a higher amount of oxygen and are 20 times more sensible to carbon dioxide poisoning. Their eyes are much less sensitive to light, but that allows them to see in environments that would blind Crasiox. A healthy human eye can see an object clearly at an infinite distance. Okay, all of that made sense for a race living on the surface and not in caves. Their lifespan is about 150 years. Wait, what? They don't have anti-aging medications? They do, actually. Their natural life expectancy is about 90 years. Up until now, I had been mostly afraid of the humans. After all I had learned, they were just so different. I found them almost monstrous. This time, however, I couldn't help but feel bad. 90 years. 90 short, pathetic years. They probably were too young or too old to actually work for about a third of their life, like we did in our natural state. That left them 60 years to contribute to society and start a family. 60? Well, at least that made their technological progress more reasonable. They hadn't gone from satellites to FTL drives in a lifespan, but a few generations. Let's switch to history. How were they 600 years ago? During their 17th century, humanity was starting to get increasingly globalized, thanks to advances in sailing technology. The European powers in particular. Sailing, what's that? It's a collection of methods the humans use to travel the large bodies of water covering their homeworld. Well, sailing technology was not a good point to get an idea of how advanced they were at the time. And how good were their computers at that time? They didn't have any. What do you mean they didn't have any? They hadn't developed the technology yet. In fact, they hadn't developed electricity or the steam engine either. I couldn't believe what I heard. When some Crasiox still alive today were in their childhood, the humans didn't have steam engines. Now they were here, a blossoming space civilization. Absurd. And their recent history, like the last 30 years? By all Crasiox standards, recent history was a few centuries. Crasiox standards were clearly not applicable to humans, however. Humans are currently still recovering from global warming, an event similar to our Great Crisis. Their recent history is marked by the invention of the FTL drive 23 years ago that finally allowed them to begin large-scale expansion in their solar system and beyond. The latest important event is first contact with the Crasiox, which has sparked interest in FTL distortion field suppression. FTL distortion fields create erratic brain activity which can be dangerous for certain species. Not the humans, though. So why did they care about stopping it? Then it clicked. We strongly desire an technological exchange, as we feel it would be beneficial to both our species. Frankly, I was ashamed of both myself and my race. While our government was discussing the possibility of a preventive strike, these short-lived primates, still dealing with the worst crisis they had ever faced, wanted nothing more than help us solve what they saw as our biggest problem.